And we are live. It's Dr. J here in the house with Evan Brand. Today, we're going to be chatting about the coronavirus. It's all over the news. We're going to kind of break it down, look at the ins and out. Is it really that big of a deal? Is it not? And then kind of natural strategies you can do to kind of help keep yourself and your family and your immune system revved up so you can attack it. All right. Evan, what's going on, man?
Hey, not too much. I thought this thing was going to go away. I thought it would be just kind of a quick news cycle like some of the viruses are. They hit the news and then 2 to 3 weeks later, they kind of die out. But this thing has lived on for long
It
enough that I
has.
think we need to talk about it. And a lot of people clinically are asking us too. We'll look at lab reviews and we'll go through all that. And then people go, "Oh, I have one more question, Evan. What about coronavirus?" I'm like, okay, I've had this question enough clinically that I think it's better now that you and I just kind of create a more general public response to it too, and things we could do to help people and also to reduce fear. Because I think if you have an action plan and you have a little bit of knowledge, then you can be less fearful. Because fear is only going to stress your immune system and make you in worse shape anyway, make you more susceptible.
Exactly. Now, the coronavirus is not a new virus. The variation of the COVID-19 is a little bit different aspect of it. There's a couple of theories out there of how or why this came to be. This virus came about in the area of Wuhan in China from a biomedical lab, a biowarfare lab, and supposedly there were some interesting practices of the scientists selling some of the lab animals to street vendors on the street. And based on some of the eating practices of rats and mice and those kind of animals being consumed, that could be one of the spreads. Again, this is just kind of speculation, but these are things that are out there. So we have to at least address it. Now, in general, that's kind of where a lot of the spread happened. And again, the strength or the death rate and the virulence of the infection seems to be worse in China than it does here. And we'll talk about that. But in general, what's a virus? A virus is basically an intercellular parasite, right? So imagine like a parasite in your gut that's inside your gut, like Giardia or Blasto, right? Intercellular means it's a parasite that's actually inside of your cell. So it's actually 100 times smaller than bacteria. And they have no characteristics of a living cell, and they have to basically be in your body to survive, right? Once a virus is on like a general surface, it only has an hour or two, maybe 24 hours to live. And when you have more summer and more UV light, it actually changes the environment and makes it harder for the virus to, one, to travel in the air droplets, but two, to even survive. So the fact that we're getting closer to spring is actually going to be really helpful for the virus not being able to hang around as long.
Yeah, it seems like when the virus stuff hits the news and people are talking about outbreaks or endemic areas, it seems like it's always wintertime. So that makes sense. So I think this thing is probably naturally just going to kind of disappear over the next month, but you still want to have somewhat of a preventative or maybe a protection plan in place. And Justin and I talk about adaptogenic herbs and mushrooms and things like that all the time. So this conversation today won't be that different because some of the stuff we do just in a general immune protocol is already beneficial for this as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's some just common sense things that can be done to help, right? Number one, if you're over 60, maybe avoiding crowded areas, flying on airplanes, those kind of things, because nearly everyone that's died in the country, which I think at this point, March 9, 2020, it's right around 18 to 20 people. And most of them have been in a nursing home up in Washington State. So it's older than 60, anyone that's going to have more compromised lung area, because that tends to be where the virus is going to hit. It's going to hit that lower lung, right? The flu typically hits the upper part of the lung. The coronavirus will be more the lower part of the lung. The hard part of it is about a 1 to 2 week incubation period. So you can have the virus not show symptoms, but potentially spread it to others. So the hardest part is the incubation where the virus is in your system, but you're not expressing symptoms. So, right now, quarantine is going to be the easiest thing, along with just general hygiene practices, washing your hands, avoiding airplanes, definitely avoiding cruise ships, those kind of things. In the meantime, especially if you're older, if you're younger, the chance of this being an issue is going to be slim. Continuing to wash your hands, have a good, healthy sanitizer on board. So if you're touching things, you're not touching your face. The biggest way it's going to be spread is hand to food, hand to mouth, hand to eye, hand to mucous membrane. That's the biggest way it's going to spread. outside of someone coughing within 6 feet of you. And again, a mask is not really going to be helpful unless you're continuously inside of 6 feet and people coughing on you that are sick. So like people that are in a healthcare setting, doctors, nurses, right? Those kind of people definitely need masks. You aren't going to need a mask unless you know you are sick and you have to be out in a public area and you're trying to prevent people from getting your virus. That'd be the only reason to really need a mask right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah, that's all some articles about that. Like, don't run out and buy a mask. And a lot of people just they think about fear. They think, okay, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And they panic. I had a lot of people thinking, well, what do I do? Do I just take more vitamin C? The answer is, yeah, you can. I saw, I don't know if you saw this too. There was like a picture that going around of like semi trucks worth of vitamin C being shipped into China. Did you happen to see that picture?
Yeah. I mean, they've talked about the vitamin C over in China. I've seen a couple of Chinese doctors interviewed on YouTube that they're buying boatloads of high quality vitamin C and they're shipping it over there and it's helping. So vitamin C, of course. And again, someone asked, is it safe to fly? I mean, I think it's totally safe to fly, but if you are over 60 and you may have a compromised immune system, I would personally hold off for the next couple of weeks to a month. At least let spring and the warmer temperatures come up before you do so, if you're in that strong risk factor and you have a weaker immune system. If not, just be careful, keep your hands washed, keep some sanitizer on you, be careful of touching your face, those kind of things. Those kind of common sense principles are going to be great. And then also just keeping your diet solid, lots of clean fluid water, filtered water, no junk in there. Keep the refined sugar and processed carbs out. That will suppress and compromise your immune system. So I think that's really, really important.
Yeah, I was going to say we could spend maybe a couple minutes just on the basic stuff and then we could talk about some specific herbs or nutrients. But as you mentioned, the diet, right? Like, so not going crazy on sugar, anything that's going to suppress the immune system, trying to manage stress. Like, if you're somebody who is, let's say you're working 60 hours a week, that's too many hours, so that's obviously going to deplete your immune system on a general basis, but especially now if you're trying to be in a like proactive protective mode, working 60 hours, staying up too late, not sleeping, those are all important things to
Yeah.
address.
Now there's a little bit of hysteria going on here in the US. Our death toll right now is right around 20-ish. It could be plus or minus 2 or 3 either direction. The Health and Human Service Secretary, Admiral Brett Giroir, just said that this was over the weekend. He said that the death rate, the mortality rate is somewhere between 0.1 to 1%. Much, 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 much lower than where they thought it was. They thought it was 2 to 3%. So it's actually at or around the flu level or less. And again, over 10,000 people have died of the flu this year already. You're looking at 20 or so with the coronavirus. So statistically, the mortality rate isn't even close. Yet people are definitely talking about it a lot more. So there's a lot more media hysteria behind it, but not that big of a deal if you're comparing mortality to mortality, really not that big of a deal. And the same things that we're going to be doing that everyone should be doing that are worried about the flu, because that's killing far more people, are the same things you should be doing for the coronavirus. So just kind of, there's a little bit of hysteria behind there. And we just want to dissolve that based on these statistics. And again, part of the reason why I think the mortality rate was higher in the beginning is because there's not really a set way to test the coronavirus. Their kits have kind of been dialed in now. So now there's more ability to test it, unlike the flu, which is easier to test. And then number two is there's a lot of people that have gotten the coronavirus and their immune system has knocked it out. So okay, if you have 100 people that come down with the coronavirus, but let's say 200 really did, but the first 100 never showed symptoms, or if they showed symptoms, it was minor. Well, that kind of matters, and that skews the rate. That makes the mortality rate look higher, and that's why I think the data is starting to turn back a little bit, showing it's more between 0.1 to 1, which is at or around the flu or even less. Again, not even close to something like the SARS or MERS or Ebola, which are other pandemics in the past. So this really isn't that big of a deal. But if you're in the higher risk factor group over 60, you already have lung weakness, then those would be some of the big things I would say is off planes, off cruise ships, do all the really good things, washing your hands. We'll talk about supplements here in a second. And then just real quick, what are the symptoms? Well, there's a big overlap with the flu. So of course, fever, difficulty breathing are going to be big things. You're also going to see cough. You're going to see a couple other things: headache, runny nose, those are going to be the big ones. You're kind of like shortness of breath, maybe chest pain, maybe a productive cough, fever, fatigue, throat irritation. All those things are potential symptoms that you're going to see. Big overlap with the flu, right?
Yeah, I was diving into that too because, with the amount of hysteria over it, I thought you would see some crazy symptom that's popping up for people. I thought, oh man, based on the amount of articles and TV time this stuff's getting. Yeah. And then you look through the symptoms and it's like, okay, coughing, sneezing, wheezing, like, okay. So it just seemed that the amount of fear and like the videos that have been displayed of all these people walking around in like biohazard suits, it seems like the amount of fear being perpetrated was far greater than the symptoms I saw.
Yeah. And my biggest thing is people want to get tested, but it's like, well, what's really going to be done anyway? I'm not sure anything different that's going to be done anyway. So I don't understand why it matters outside of just having the stats and outside of maybe making more of an effort to quarantine yourself. But you should be making an effort to quarantine yourself anyway if you have the flu too. So,
Right.
either way,
You're saying if you did get a conventional test that says that you were positive, the conventional treatment, there's not really a treatment because there's no specific vaccine for it, for example.
exactly. There's no specific thing that they're going to be able to do outside of the fact of a lot of times viral issues could potentially lead to a pneumonia. And if it's kind of a pneumonia that's bacterial induced after the fact, antibiotics could be used. But outside of that, on the conventional side, there's really nothing. Now, on the natural side, there's a lot of things we can do. But I mean, outside of just quarantine and washing your hands and being mindful of coughing and maybe being separated from your family, those would probably be the best things that you could do. But those are kind of common sense things anyway. I'm not sure how knowing you have the coronavirus changes that, especially if you think you already have the flu to begin with, because those things should already be practiced.
Yeah.
So in general, most people, when they die, they're going to die of pneumonia, right? And that's basically swelling and fluid in the lungs. So easy things that we can do off the bat. Well, do you want to start talking about some of the things we can do to support the immune system and help the lungs?
Yeah, so we mentioned vitamin C as in Charlie. Vitamin D is always going to be helpful. Now, I don't have any specific paper on this for coronavirus, but the nebulized glutathione that you and I've talked about for mold detox seems like a great thing for me because I've had clients with COPD, which would be someone in the higher risk category for this. And the people who've done nebulized glutathione that have had COPD, they've reported they feel much, much better. And these were people who were previously on inhalers who were able to get off inhalers. So, like I said, I don't have specific data saying this is specific for coronavirus, but I could just say based on other similar related lung issues with people, the nebulized glutathione has been very, very helpful.
Yeah, the nebulized glutathione is shown to be very helpful when there is lung inflammation. So if you are more susceptible, getting glutathione up, you can nebulize it to get it right in that tissue, which will help with the inflamed tissue, which is what this coronavirus is doing. It's really going to be inflaming that tissue. Now, we can also increase vitamin C. Vitamin C is very helpful. We know right here, this is the 20-year-old study, but there's dozens of them. The effectiveness of vitamin C in preventing and relieving the symptoms of virus-induced respiratory infections, plural. They talk about vitamin C in megadose administered before or after the appearance of cold or flu symptoms. Prevented the symptoms in the test populations compared with the control group. And they gave people 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C for the first 6 hours and 3 times a day after. So they were doing basically 3 grams of vitamin C a day in 3 divided doses. And they were doing that for the first 3 to 4 days. And they saw a significant reduction in symptoms of the appearances of the cold and flu and even prevented symptoms compared to the control. So I think that's pretty powerful. This is a total of 463 people between the ages of 18 and 30. So that's interesting. So we know that these nutrients have an underlying mechanism of supporting the immune system. So we're not just controlling symptoms, we're upregulating the immune system. And it makes sense that the immune system will be able to do better with fighting the viral infection.
That's amazing. There was that much benefit at that dose because that's actually kind of a low dose. I mean, that's typically where you and I dose ourselves just as a kind of daily basis, not specifically fighting anything.
Yeah, I'm going to be going just below bowel tolerance. So I may be at 6 to 10 to 12 grams of vitamin C. If I get loose stools, then I back off until my stools solidify. So I'm going to be doing a dose just below bowel tolerance, because that means I'm at saturation. So that's called the vitamin C calibration. You just keep on tapering your vitamin C up till your stools get loose, and then you pull back till they solidify. That way, you know exactly kind of where your maximum levels are at.
Yep, that's awesome. All right, so
Isn't
do
that
you want to
cool?
go into some specific herbs? There's several good options out there.
So a couple of things here. Let's go into some of the mechanisms here. All right. So number one, let's go into some of those mechanisms, Evan, with the IGF-1. Let's talk about that briefly.
Yeah, and got to give credit where credit's due. So Stephen Buhner, amazing guy. He's actually from my city, Louisville, Kentucky. He's out in New Mexico now. He's a guy who Justin and I have looked up to for a long time because he's great with herbs when it comes to Lyme and co-infections. So he wrote out this document about coronavirus, and he had some of the mechanisms outlined in here. And so, of course, he talks about how viruses get spread via coughing, and that's sort of what viruses make you do, because they know that they need to get to more hosts so that they can continue to thrive and survive. So kind of the mechanism of coughing, that's the virus doing that so that it can basically replicate itself. Now, of course, he goes into a little bit of the issues with cytokine storms and how this could spread through the body via the blood and sometimes cause septic shock. And so that, of course, is a risk, but he mentioned it wasn't so much for this type of virus, but that there was an enzyme in the body called ACE2, and this helps to regulate the renin-angiotensin
The
system.
kidneys. Yeah,
Yes,
it's going to help with the blood pressure. Yep.
So spleen, lymph nodes, kidneys, of course, your electrolyte balance, the vascular system, that's all in that RAS. And these viruses affect this ACE2 pathway. And so there are herbs you could use to protect this pathway. Number one, which is funny because I'm on this every day. This was Buhner's number one recommendation was, I think you pronounce it glycis. How do you pronounce the Latin name of this one? Is it glycyrrhiza?
Yeah,
Licorice.
it's basically licorice.
Yep.
We have licorice. Chinese skullcap is excellent. Horse chestnut, Japanese knotweed, which is also resveratrol essentially, and even cinnamon are excellent ways to kind of modulate some of these pathways. And again, a lot of these pathways are intimidating. Just know that this is how the virus is causing damage and inflammation. It's kind of like a burglar coming into the front door, the back door, the side window, right? Going up the second floor, right? So it's just kind of talking about how the burglar or the invading virus is coming into the body and the damage it's causing. Now, do you have to understand the damage or understand that it's what door it's coming through? Not necessarily. We just have to kind of check off our boxes regarding all the strategies that are going to support our immune system from a diet and lifestyle standpoint. And then we look at all the strategies that we can do supplementally on top of that. Foundationally, diet and lifestyle, free, easy, simple, and then secondary supplements.
Yeah, well said. I love the analogy. Thanks for that. So, it's also mentioned that the ACE2 function tends to be less dynamic the older people get. So this is part of the reason that you mentioned it's more affecting older people is just because of that pathway is not working as well. Therefore, you may need some additional herbal support. Like the knotweed is great, and Japanese knotweed is one of my favorites. I've been on it for months, and so I'm kind of already doing a protocol like this.
Exactly. Yep. 100%. Now let's go over a couple of mechanisms. There's a couple of things that I like supplementally. So of course, people in the chat are talking about certain nutrients like vitamin D or zinc. Those are all excellent nutrients that can be used at higher levels to help. We already talked about vitamin C in one study at 3 grams. I think you can go up to bowel tolerance, between 3 and 10 grams, back off till your stools solidify. These are great. We talked about nebulizing glutathione. There's a special kind of glutathione that we use. You can get it at Evan's site. Also, mine is justinhealth.com/glutathione. It's a glutathione that's mixed with a sodium bicarbonate, so it can be infused with saline solution and be put in a nebulizer. We'll do 200 milligrams of that, 1 to 3 times a day in a nebulizer. We also can do some silver as well. Not a ton of studies on silver. Don't get a crappy silver. You get, you'll see things online about Argeria turning blue. It's only going to happen if you're using really crummy silver. If you're using a silver that's really small, like around 10 part per million, high quality, you're going to be in a much better place using that. But the silver can also be very helpful getting into your lungs and preventing the killing the virus or preventing the virus. But it's a little bit more controversial on the silver. So do your homework on that. Talk to your doctor about that one ahead of time. I don't want to recommend it directly. I personally do it, but I'm not going to go out there and say everyone should do that. Now, other low-hanging fruit. So N-acetylcysteine is a great amino acid that's a precursor to glutathione. That's awesome. Now, how it actually works is it inhibits the replication of the pro-inflammatory molecule. So the virus comes in, it creates all this inflammation, and it's basically inhibiting the replication of these pro-inflammatory molecules. Therefore, the antioxidant like NAC represents a potential additional treatment option that can be used to be considered in the case of influenza. And again, this is one study out of the Journal of Biochemical Pharmacology, N-acetylcysteine. Again, the vitamin C study was the Journal of Manipulative Physiological Therapy. We'll put all these studies in the link below after this live video is produced. So N-acetylcysteine is amazing at reducing the viral replication. There's a couple more. I'm going to give Evan a chance to comment.
Yeah, those are great strategies. I want to throw astragalus in there. Astragalus is something I usually start up in the springtime anyway, just for prevention. If you get bit by ticks, in theory, astragalus could help keep the immune system in a heightened state. So astragalus can be very helpful. And there are some mechanisms that can be involved with it, but I don't think it adds to the conversation. So I'll just say astragalus is a great immune support. We'll often use blends of immune supports like astragalus along with some mushrooms. So reishi mushroom and turkey tail, shiitake, maitake. There's different profiles and compounds in different mushrooms. So of course we could just say in general, Justin and I really both like reishi mushroom, but there are others you can take in conjunction with it. And then if you throw in something like elder and astragalus and some licorice and some vitamin C, some vitamin D, maybe some of the nutrients people are talking about like zinc, I mean, you've got a really good, strong protocol. And another thing too to mention is there's also multiple mechanisms to the herb. So for example, we talked about that whole ACE2 pathway, but also the interleukins. So the cytokines that happen, which is like a inflammatory response due to the virus. For example, Japanese knotweed and skullcap, those also reduce inflammatory cytokines. So it's cool because in conventional medicine, you don't really get that. You typically get one mechanism, but with herbs, you could have multiple mechanisms from the same nutrient.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. So, and again, there's studies for all of this stuff that we're talking about in regards to the astragalus. There's a lot of different things. I'm going to pull up one study here that we can kind of go over with here and make sense of it all. So in general, this one study here, which I will reiterate for you, it is by the Journal of Animal Science and Biotechnology, and they're looking at the astragalus polysaccharides and their ability to enhance immunity, inhibit the H9N2 avian flu. And again, we're comparing flu because it's very similar to the coronavirus, same symptoms-ish, same-ish death rate. So it's hitting similar areas. Flu is more upper respiratory. Coronavirus is going to be more lower respiratory, but still some of the same effectiveness. So astragalus, what they're finding is it increases the expression of interleukin 2, interleukin 4, interleukin 6, interleukin 10. It promotes cell growth and enhances anti-flu activity. So this is big. It increases the CD4 and CD8 lymphocyte count. CD8 is going to be your natural killer cells, and your CD4 is going to be your helper cell. So it's actually going to stimulate these immune responses. And then they also talk about here, yeah, I think that's good enough. I think we hit it. So really, it's modulating the immune response. Some of these herbs are actually going to decrease viral replication. Others, like monolaurin, which is an extract in coconut, actually digests the viral envelope. And kind of the viral envelope is kind of a cloaking mechanism that viruses use because they're so tiny, so the immune system can't see them. So my analogy is if you watch the Harry Potter series, right? Harry has his invisibility cloak, right? And he puts it on and he can walk around. No one can see him. Viruses kind of have this invisibility cloak around them. Things like monolaurin can actually help, which then exposes the virus to the immune system, now you have a better immune response. NAC, like I mentioned, decreases the viral replication. So it makes it harder for the virus to replicate and then also create inflammation in the body, which I think is really important. And then there's one more thing I wanted to highlight here. And then we have reishi, right? Reishi, very powerful. So one of the ways that reishi, it produces these things called polysaccharides and also triterpenes. This is powerful. Now, these triterpenes, they have major effects on the neuraminidase pathway, all right? Neuraminidase. And they're actually looking at creating lots of drugs to work this same way. We have herbs that have been used for a very, very long time on actually helping to activate this pathway. That's the neuraminidase pathway. I'll pull up the conclusion of this study here. I had the information set aside, but I just lost sight of it. Give me a sec.
One thing I want to say too, while you're doing that, is we often like to use stuff for the lymphatic system. So there are things like cleavers, which could be very good for the lymphatics, and then also for the spleen. Red root is one of my favorite herbs. So there's a couple tinctures I use that have red root in there and some other lymphatic support. So like I said, in general, I tend to do a lot of these things just on a daily basis. So that's why if you are taking good care of yourself now, you don't really have to go into panic mode and think, oh my God, what do I need to do? Because you're already doing a lot for yourself. So I'm not saying if you don't have a protocol now that you're dropping the ball, but just in general, you want to have a good adrenal, liver, lymphatics, immune kind of built into your daily life. And then of course, taking care of your sleep, your stress, your diet, and a lot of things won't hit you like they would hit someone else.
Yeah. And so basically with the neuraminidase pathway and the reishi, it's going to make it harder for the virus to dock on, right? Because the virus has to dock onto your body and then it kind of lives off your body. And then it's going to just have effects on inhibiting the virus, inhibiting the viral replication. So a lot of times there's 3 or 4 major mechanisms, right? Number 1 is the docking of the virus. Number 2 is exposing the virus to the immune system. Number 3 is upregulating various immune pathways so we can kill the virus, right? And then those would be like the big 3 or 4. And then of course the other ones would be diet and lifestyle things that prevent you from even having the virus to begin with, right? Whether it's washing your hands or just having a stronger immune response. So our body, the virus doesn't even get into the body because our first line immune defense is strong enough to slough it off to begin with. Does that make sense?
It does. I had someone ask me about homeopathic remedies for stuff like this. And I've used homeopathic remedies a couple times in my life, specifically arnica for some swelling issues I had after a surgery. But beyond that, I would not go towards homeopathics. I would go towards herbs that have proven mechanisms.
Yeah, proven mechanisms. Not saying homeopathy can't work or can't help modulate the immune system or can't help modulate drainage. I'm not saying that. It's just, we know there's a lot of herbs that have been around for generations that have proven benefits. So if you wanted to add homeopathy there, do it with other things as well. Kind of use it as a scaffolding for other things.
Essential oils would be in the same category. People may say, well, I'm going to, diffuse this oil or that oil because it's supposedly antimicrobial or antiviral. I'm all for it. I'm a huge fan, but I wouldn't depend on that solely if I were concerned.
And again, there are some essential oils like clove that have a proven track record, or oil of oregano that have antiviral qualities. So yeah, some of those things I think are great. It's going to be hard to get those oils in your body through a liquid unless you're encapsulating it. And if you're encapsulating it, that may be therapeutic, right? I know peppermint oil is proven to be antiviral. I think it's in vitro, peppermint oil can kill HIV, outside of the body. So a lot of those things do have an antiviral capacity to it. Maybe actually really good to dilute and wash your countertops down in to prevent any viruses and such. So that can be good as well. So off the bat, one more thing I wanted to highlight. Infrared sauna and heat are actually amazing. They work very similar at upregulating the immune system. So infrared sauna is going to mimic that fever response, and it's going to increase neutrophil infiltrations and help the neutrophil kind of come in there and gobble up that pathogen. It's going to help improve interleukin 8, interleukin 17. It's going to help all these different immune things. Now, it's going to help with natural killer cells. Do you have to understand all the different cells that are happening? No. If you jump in the sauna and you get exposed to some really good 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes, you bring some good quality mineral water in there with you. You hydrate, you don't lose your minerals. You're going to have a really good benefit at bumping up that Th1 immune response. A lot of those cells are going to be more Th1 based. Th2 based will be more like parasitic allergy based. So we're really trying to upregulate that Th1 antiviral, antibacterial immune response, and warming your body up can really, really help with that.
Well said. Well said. Yeah, I love the sauna. I had one other thing on my head and then I lost it, but the sauna is a great strategy. So I think that's plenty. I think if you do everything we talked about, or even some of what we talked about today, you're going to be in a lot better shape.
Yeah, and take a look at my two articles, What to Do When You Get Sick, Part One and Part Two. Part One just talks about all the diet and lifestyle strategies that are foundational. So, hydration, clean water, no added sugar, no alcohol, keeping the carbohydrates down, focus on higher quality proteins and fats. Um, Excess carbohydrates, especially refined sugar, will inhibit the immune system. Every like 1 to 2 tablespoons will knock down your immune response by a couple hours. And so, more stress, more immune system, more alcohol, more stress, more decreased immunity, more carbohydrate slash refined sugar, more alcohol, and poor sleep. That's all going to weaken your immune response and make you more susceptible. And then, of course, things like sleep, getting adequate sleep, washing your hands. If you're washing your hands a lot, I recommend try not to use some of the triclosan based soaps because they're going to have a lot of antibiotic in it. So I just like to have a really good like essential oil. I'm a big fan of the citrus oil based soaps. So then you can wash your hands, slough off anything on your hands. Because the big mechanism of how soap works is not necessarily killing it, but it just decreasing the stickiness of the bacteria or virus to your skin and then washing it down the drain, right? So really decreasing the adhesion on your skin. So hand washing, sleep. Is there anything else you want to highlight there, Evan, from a
Low,
diet
low,
lifestyle strategy?
Not in those categories. Lomatium's another cool herb, but in some people it can cause a full body rash. And I don't know much about lomatium when it comes to specifically this strain or this type of viral issue. In general, lomatium's amazing immune support across the board, but I think even some of the other ones we talked about are just as good.
Absolutely. Really good points. Anything else you want to highlight? There's a lot of things to this here. So looking at the stats, I don't think it's that big of a deal. Again, when you look at what's happening over in China, the numbers definitely are a lot more scary. In general, here in the United States, not as bad when you look at it next to typical flu. And if you're worried about flu, then you should be doing all of the same things to be on top of it. Again, it's like 3,800 confirmed deaths worldwide, 110,000 cases today, March 9th. There's like here in the US, I think around 300 confirmed, and then death wise, right around 20. Yeah. So in the US now, it's 554 and 22 deaths. So 554. And again, the incidences are going to be higher because they've just started to get the testing streamlined over the last 2 to 3 days. And now that that's gone streamlined, more people are being picked up in testing. So there's been a doubling from Friday at 250 to today at 554. But a lot of that's the increase in testing. The death rate went from 19 on Friday to 22. And again, most of it's happening in a nursing home up in Washington State, most of it. So again, over 60, stay off of airplanes, stay off of cruise ships, wash your hands, maybe do it for the next month. And again, if you're over 60, but you're healthy and you have a good immune system and you don't have any lung issues, then more than likely it's probably not going to be a big deal, but I would still probably stay off of the cruise ships. I know a lot of the cruise lines they're having a lot of precautions right now. I read an article this morning that everyone has mandatory washing of hands literally in front of the crew before each meal. Everywhere they go, they sanitize the whole entire table. Table legs are washed before every meal and after every meal. The bathrooms are cleaned every 30 minutes. So pretty amazing. They're actually going through a lot of precautions to make the cruise ships more safe. So I'm hoping in the next month this will be good. And of course, UV light, right? UV light, get outside. The more outside you are in nature where there's good quality light, the less chance you'll get exposed to a virus for sure.
Yeah, not to mention nature boosts your NK killer cells too. So go on a camping trip. That may help you boost up your immune system quite a bit. It's been shown. It's not even, it might. No, it will. It will boost your immune system for a month. There was a study on that looking at people walking on a sidewalk in the city versus people walking in the woods. The people walking in the woods had their immune system boosted for over 30 days, significantly higher than the city group. So it's amazing what nature can do. And it's like, duh, We shouldn't have to have a study to say that, but we do. So it's cool to reference it. Well, let's wrap this thing up. Unless you had anything else you wanted to say.
Yeah, I don't want anyone to be scared here. I think you guys listening should do the same thing that you would do for the flu virus. That's it. Outside of maybe staying away from international travel, cruise ships, older with weaker lung issues, stay away from flying maybe for the next month. But outside of that, I think do all the diet and lifestyle strategies. We'll put all of our references and resources below so you guys have that, and you can take a look at our sources. And I'll be around for a live Q&A here in a little bit. So if you guys are watching, I'll be back in like 10, 15 minutes and we can chat.
All right. So if you have any other questions, you could put them there, or if you're watching on YouTube, put your comments there or message us. You could look us up on Instagram and send us a message or a comment there. And then if you do want to reach out clinically, we love helping people. If you're strong, you're resilient across the board on a daily basis. When stuff comes up like this, you're going to be in better shape. So if you do want help with your health symptoms, you can reach out to Justin at his website, justinhealth.com. justinhealth.com, my website, evanbrand.com. And we'll be back next week. So thanks for joining us.
Yeah, we appreciate the likes, guys. Hit the bell, get notifications. Sharing is caring. We appreciate it. Thank you guys for being here, and we'll be back. Evan, take care.
See ya. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.